Offset and Rock, Rashawn. Right? I wake up to it. I guess it's on Twitter somewhere. My phone's going crazy. It's Offset. He's telling me, only thing I'm hearing is Blueface. I called Blueface. Hey man, what is going on? And he said, I welcome Offset to the circus. I said, well, what is that? And that's when he told me, he put up some text messages showing that French Montana had his party out there. I guess they hooked up, right? I'm telling Blueface, nah, that ain't bro code. He said, I don't give a he want to be part of the circus, he part of the circus. Offset's calling me because in his head, I can stop it. But I can't stop nothing I don't know about, right? So I'm all ready to fight with Blueface to like try to at least control this fire, right? Offset's thinking, there's no way he gonna do that without you. Bro, I don't know nothing about none of this, right? And that's when he kept on accusing me. I'm like, I can really get out the way and let him go.
Offset was only about 20 years old when the contract was placed in front of him. The offer sounded life-changing, $2 million up front. For a young artist who had grown up with very little, that kind of money felt unreal. It meant helping his family, buying the things he had always dreamed about, and finally escaping the struggle. All the company needed was his signature, and without thinking too deeply about the details, he signed. What many young artists don't realize is that an advance is not free money. It may look like a reward, but it is actually a loan. Comes with expectations and control. When you are young and chasing success, you don't always stop to read the fine print. You trust the excitement, the people around you, and the promise of a better life. By the time the reality becomes clear, the agreement is already locked in. For Offset, the story didn't really begin with fame or hit songs. It started in that office with paperwork and small print that he didn't fully understand. Years later, he openly admitted something that many artists don't like to say. At the time, he didn't completely understand what he was signing. He trusted the system, the lawyers, and the opportunity in front of him. The dream of making it out was louder than any warning. Now, years later, his name has been connected to different industry conflicts, including tension involving Wack100. There have been talks about unfair deals, confusing money splits, private messages being exposed, and even stories about physical confrontations connected to dice games. With so many claims and rumors floating around, people began asking a bigger question. Did Offset lose control early in his career, or has he been trying to take that control back ever since? The biggest mistake many new artists make is not about music. It's about understanding money. When Offset speaks about his early deals, he doesn't sound angry. Instead, he sounds like someone who learned the hard way and now sees how the business really works. Record labels don't give away money, they invest it. For example, if a company gives an artist a $2 million advance, that amount must be earned back. At a young age, it feels like winning the lottery. Artists spend on jewelry, cars, homes, and helping their families. But the truth is, that money is taken from their future earnings. Here's where things get tough. Imagine an album makes $20 million. The artist doesn't receive that full amount. The label first takes back recording costs, marketing, videos, tour expenses, producer fees, and many other charges. Until every dollar is recovered, the artist may not see much profit at all. Offset later admitted that he signed agreements without fully understanding the long-term impact. He relied on professionals who explained the basics but didn't always make the full picture clear. This is why some people began connecting his situation to industry figures like Wack100, who has faced criticism for business structures where he plays multiple roles. In some cases, a person may act as both manager and label. If one role takes 50% and the other takes 20%, most of the income is already gone before the artist gets paid. While this type of arrangement can be legal if written into the contract, many people question whether it truly protects the artist's interests. The real concern is simple. A manager is supposed to negotiate against the label to secure the best deal. But if the same person controls both sides, there is no real negotiation. This situation became widely discussed with other artists in the industry, which made fans look more closely at Offset's past experiences. However, the tension between Offset and Wack eventually became less about business and more about personal relationships. At the center of the situation was Cardi B. Wack had known her long before she became one of the biggest female rappers. Their connection went back years and was built on real history. When Offset and Cardi's relationship began facing public problems, including breakups and online drama, the situation pulled others into the middle. Things escalated when content allegedly surfaced online suggesting Offset was involved in situations connected to other people. Screenshots and messages spread quickly, and Offset was upset. Because the content came from Blueface, who is connected to Wack, Offset believed Wack may have approved or allowed it. From Offset's point of view, responsibility travels up the chain. If an artist under someone's management does something public, the manager should know. However, Wack denied any involvement and said he only learned about the situation after it had already gone public. Then the situation took a different turn. Cardi reportedly stepped in and asked everyone to calm things down. Instead of letting the conflict grow, she pushed for peace. According to Wack, out of respect for her, he chose not to release or discuss certain information. At that point, the conflict was no longer about contracts or money. It became about trust, loyalty, and personal boundaries. Just when things seemed to settle, an old story brought the tension back. The story involved a dice game that allegedly took place in 2019 at a studio in Atlanta. The players were said to be Offset and 42 Dugg. In dice culture, there is an unwritten rule. If someone is on a winning streak, you don't walk away in the middle of the action. You stay until the round is finished. The resurfacing of this story added more fuel to the situation, bringing old tensions back into public conversation. In the end, Offset's journey shows how the music industry is about more than talent and fame. Behind the success are contracts, money structures, relationships, and power struggles. For many artists, the real battle isn't becoming famous. It's understanding the business and holding on to control once the spotlight arrives. In the streets and in hip-hop culture, respect matters. There are rules people don't always say out loud, but everyone understands them. That's the angle Wack100 gave when he shared his version of an old story involving Offset and 42 Dugg. According to Wack, the situation happened during a dice game. He claimed that 42 Dugg tried to leave the game with money in his pockets while Offset was still on a winning streak. In dice culture, that's seen as disrespectful. If someone is hot and the game is still active, you're expected to stay until the round is finished. Wack said Offset followed Dugg outside and reached toward his pockets, which led to a physical moment between them. He claimed a punch was thrown, but that 42 Dugg didn't fight back, and the situation ended quickly. At first, the story was just Wack's word. But things became more complicated when 42 Dugg went live online and denied that anything like that had happened. He said he wasn't robbed, didn't lose money, and left with everything he came with. That's when Wack shared something else. He showed private messages that were allegedly from Offset. In those messages, Offset reportedly agreed with his version of events. That detail changed the conversation because now it wasn't only one person telling the story. It suggested that Offset had privately confirmed parts of it. Still, 42 Dugg stood firm. He even swore on his mother that nothing was taken from him. According to him, he walked away with his cash, jewelry, and watches. No losses, no robbery, no issue. So what really happened? The truth is, no one outside that moment can prove it for sure. But once the story came back into public conversation, it reopened old tension. It mixed business relationships, street image, and personal pride. In hip-hop, reputation can be just as important as money. While people were talking about the dice game, something much bigger was happening behind the scenes: the breakup of Migos. For years, fans believed the split came from personal drama. There were rumors about ego, jealousy, or members wanting solo attention. But when Offset finally spoke about it, his explanation was much simpler and more serious. The real issue was business. As he got older and his life changed, Offset began looking more closely at the financial side of things. He had children, more responsibilities, and a different mindset. He started paying attention to ownership percentages and how money was being divided. What he saw didn't feel fair anymore. According to him, the tension wasn't personal with Quavo or Takeoff. It wasn't about wanting more from them. It was about the larger system around the group, the label's management, and the behind-the-scenes structure that controlled the real money. When you think about advances, recoupment, publishing, touring cuts, and back-end deals, the numbers get complicated fast. Now imagine all of that split between three artists. Add outside contracts and partnerships, and the situation becomes even more complex. Offset also suggested that outside forces in the industry were quietly creating division. Small disagreements would turn into headlines. Rumors would spread. Pressure from business mixed with pride, and over time cracks began to form. Then everything changed when Takeoff passed away. After that loss, the conversation shifted completely. This was no longer about contracts or percentages. It was about family, grief, and regret. Offset later admitted that he struggled with guilt. He found himself thinking about the what-ifs. What if he hadn't focused on solo work? What if the group had stayed closer? What if he had been there that night? He wasn't blaming anyone. He was simply being honest about the thoughts that come after tragedy. Losing someone close changes the way you see everything. After that, his approach to business became different. He spoke less emotionally and more strategically. Instead of chasing big advances like he did when he was younger, he started focusing on ownership and control. He began asking smarter questions. Who owns the masters? Who controls the publishing? Who benefits when the streams reach millions? That shift explains why his tension with figures like Wack100 feels deeper than a simple disagreement. It's not only about personalities, it's about power. After early experiences where he didn't fully understand his contracts, Offset no longer wants to be in a position where someone else controls his career. And instead of fighting loudly in public, he moved quietly. He didn't go on long media tours. He didn't argue online every week. Instead, he focused on restructuring his deals and making sure his future agreements looked different from his past ones. That's something many people miss about the music business. Not every battle happens on social media. Some of the biggest fights take place in meeting rooms through negotiations, paperwork, and decisions to walk away from situations that no longer make sense. At the same time, Wack100 continued to speak openly. He defended his name, shared his perspective, and stayed active in headlines. That's his style, direct and outspoken. Offset's approach is the opposite, quiet, careful, and calculated. When two strong personalities move differently, the public often fills in the gaps with assumptions. Fans choose sides. Comment sections explode. Separate stories get connected into one big narrative. But the reality is simpler. There was never a major public showdown between Offset and Wack. No lawsuit, no viral confrontation. Just tension, conflicting stories, and unresolved feelings. And sometimes that kind of quiet conflict lasts longer than a loud one. When you step back and look at everything, this story isn't really about a dice game. It's about control. Offset entered the industry young, talented, and eager. He signed quickly and trusted the system. He earned millions, but he didn't fully control the machine behind that success. Once an artist realizes that, their mindset changes. The music industry runs on leverage. Labels have power when artists are new. Managers have influence when artists don't understand the business. Public opinion can affect reputation. And pride can turn small issues into big problems. Offset's journey shows what happens when an artist stops just performing and starts learning the business. He began asking tougher questions about ownership, percentages, and long-term value. Because in the end, the real power doesn't come from fame or headlines. It comes from understanding what you signed and making sure the next deal puts you in control.